dry? When did we trade compassion for code? Headlines for hearts, clicks for souls. Every life is breath from above. Every death should shake us with love. All lives matter, we're just the ones we choose. When a soul is taken, do we feel or do we lose? The reverence, the holy fire inside. All lives matter, but do we live it with our lives?
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Cottage Hearth podcast. I hope that you guys like and subscribe and comment below, and please help me get to 1,000 subscribers before my birthday. That would be wonderful. Thank you. God bless you in advance. So today, what I'm going to do is something a little different than the other podcasts that I usually do. I'm going to read, and in between, when I take breaks, there's going to be video clips for you to view, and then continuation of what I'm trying to say and why I'm showing and sharing certain topics. Okay? All right. Just so that we're aware of what's going to happen. I'm going to be discussing contrasting versions of women, Catholic women, okay? And I'm focusing here on Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly, Erica Kirk, and I know that Allie Beth Stuckey is not Catholic, but she is a believer, so she's our sister. So I'm contrasting them. And you'll see the picture in a moment, well, throughout what I'm going to be presenting. But I want you to keep in mind that this is a contrast of Candace Owens, Megyn Kelly versus Erica Kirk, Allie Beth Stuckey. Okay? All right. And also, disclaimer, I am not attacking individual persons or appearances or nail color choices or hair placements, nothing like that. This is about judging fruit. Okay? I'm keeping it biblical. All right, just wanted to say that before we begin.
I wouldn't let Ben Shapiro rent space in your head. Just keep moving forward. We are building, right? It's not about whether or not, this isn't about winning or losing. It just needs to stop. Like, I can't explain to you. It's getting, there's something about it to me that just is starting to feel dangerous. It's like there's an obsession here. There's an obsession with me that is happening. And I would like it to stop. That's it.
Candace Owens, okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's. At one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her? Stop.
I would like you to just leave me alone. There's something about it that feels parasitic. And I'm asking for it to stop. I am. And I hope that is enough.
We were told that if we said stop, they would stop. And we said stop. And I'll say it again. Please stop.
And I would like for it to stop.
To stop. To stop.
Because she's a widow, we can't question her judgment. And I want to say that I reject that. I reject emotional manipulation.
That's all I have to say. Stop.
I just want it to stop. It's a no from me. I wouldn't let Ben Shapiro rent space in your head. Just
all you have to do is say straightforward, I was not there. I was not in Contreras County on this date at this time. This is not complicated. But when this comes up on someone's huge following, you answer it. You just do, okay? If you have an easy alibi, you just freaking do. I'm so sick of this pretending like, well, I don't have to answer all this crap.
Right.
No,
It is
actually,
stupid.
you do, okay? Sorry, but you do.
they can deserve the scrutiny they get in return for not giving those answers, right? The suspicion that comes with that's part of not giving those answers. So it's a two-way exchange.
I totally agree with you on that.
Okay, so if they don't provide any alibis, then what happens? Does this just stay open-ended and then it keeps being the main focus?
Well, they did. That's the point. And that's why this is now, that's why I named this Why It Suddenly Really Matters, right? So if they had like kind of stayed out of it and were like, well, I'm not even going to answer because it's so stupid, then we're like, okay, well, maybe he's just wrong. And that would be what it was. He would just be wrong. He wouldn't be a liar because he was where he said he was, and the people that were there, and Captain Neff was whatever. But they did give an alibi. So they do care, right? So if you have to give someone an alibi, it's because you don't want people to think that you're there. An alibi is not needed if there's nothing to hide. So that's why it matters. I think that's why it matters.
Is a young mom of like 3 young kids. She's under a lot of pressure. She's got a big show. It's my prerogative if I say to myself, that is not someone I wish to attack.
I believe that people within that company betrayed Charlie. I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. None of you guys are behaving in the way that you should be behaving.
Because like I didn't opine on whether it's evil or not, but my position is it's really none of my business. I'm not mother of the internet.
No, but if this were on the left and somebody were accusing Charlie Kirk of his wife having murdered him, I assume that you would be talking about it.
Is that what Candace is accusing Erica of?
Yes.
Of murdering her own husband?
I'm starting to think that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was something akin to a regicide, right? The assassination of a king to install a new ruler who the king would have never approved of.
Okay. Like I said, I don't take in that content.
We just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. Just nothing in his life was real.
He said that Candace has been claiming Erica Kirk was behind the murder of Charlie, which I had not heard. And I was taken aback because that seems like something I would have heard. It's so crazy. And I have since learned it is not true.
And it's kind of giving me like, I don't know, LBJ, unfortunately sworn in. Unfortunately, of course, he's sad. JFK was shot and killed. And now LBJ has to step up. I don't think LBJ was actually that upset.
Candace has not made that claim. She's specifically been defending Erica Kirk.
It's looking to me like the apparent plan was to assassinate Charlie Kirk, who had at long last faltered on the pro-Israel cause, and then to stage a hostile takeover of his brand and of his legacy.
My goal and my job here, I think, is to try to understand, yes, where Candace is coming from on this.
The decision was made to murder Charlie Kirk, a decision that very clearly had to be approved by Charlie's friends.
Of course, I don't agree with what she's said about Turning Point Erica, and she knows that.
Cam Higbee is on the payroll of Turning Point USA, very organization that just had its leader assassinated in broad daylight in front of the entire world.
Maybe Candace does want an off-ramp, and I'm willing to try. So Candace and I were in touch, and she was very nice. She said, I'm thrilled it's you. I'll do it.
And my only ground rule is no assassinations. Okay? No assassinations, no funny business. You can't pretend you're going to do it, and then Candace died in a mysterious accident.
What I really want is for Candace to move on from Turning Point and Erica. I have no problem with her asking questions, but not about them.
Obviously, for this to have been pulled off, there had to have been multiple people involved. There had to have been people at Turning Point that were complicit in having this happen.
And I've gotten to know her a lot better over the past 6 months. And actually, I know her better now than ever. And I've learned a lot about what's being done to Candace.
We were told that if we said stop, they would stop. And we said stop. And I'll say it again. Please stop.
Yep.
And it's disgusting. And I'm horrified by what she's been put through.
Because she's a widow, we can't question her judgment. And I want to say that I reject that. I reject emotional manipulation.
I really fully believe God's role for me here is to possibly play a role in getting this whole thing to a better place.
Put it at a percentage that you saw that the girl in the ponytail matches the description of Erica Kirk. What percentage would you put that at?
That's 95 to 99%. That was that person. They were there.
What I really want is for Candace to move on from Turning Point and Erica. I have no problem with her asking questions, but not about them.
Erica is the reason Charlie even got involved in the Falkirk Center. And then the spinoff of Turning Point USA Faith, she was brought in as his handler to move him in that direction. She had him starry-eyed and wrapped around her finger.
Look, Candace has the right to ask the questions she wants to ask.
Starting to work through some of the questions that people have about her background, about the charities that she was involved in and the overseas stuff. And, she says she lived in China, and she says that she lived in Costa Rica, and when and for what. I do intend on doing an episode dedicated to that in the future.
So I'm really just not in the mood. I'm not her policeman. I don't want to be her policeman. You don't like her, don't click on her face.
And I'll say it again. Please stop.
It's a no from me.
That is not someone I wish to attack. I won't do it. I think now it's like a point of pride.
Catholic women should be mindful of Catholic teaching on gossip, calamity, rash judgments, and detraction. Should speak with charity and dignity towards persons, especially widows. Should be respecting and reverencing the sacrament of marriage. Should honor the dead. Should protect the families of a violent crime. Should be interceding with prayers, covering them in prayers. Presumption of innocence, not legal naivety. I don't know how to pronounce that word, I'm sorry. It's not legal naivety, but spiritual restraint. We are not judges of hearts or hidden motives. Avoidance of scandal. Even true information can become sinful if it leads others to sin, hatred, or cruelty. This is very important for podcasters with listeners. Submission of justice to God. Naming that God is the final judge allows you to step out of the pressure to decide anything publicly. Silence as virtue. Sometimes the most Catholic response is refusal to speculate. Silence can be an act of reverence. Compassion without endorsement. You can explicitly state that mercy doesn't equal approval. This protects you from false accusations of defending wrongdoing. As Catholic women, our duty is not to solve crimes online, but to protect souls, including our own.
On the Charlie Kirk show last week, Andrew said someone powerful called Erica and asked how much she knows, and she said, I know everything. I think she knows everything. She's his wife. What is a wife? Everything she said on stage yesterday. A confidant. Every secret that the world is not meant to know about Charlie Kirk, she knows about Charlie Kirk. Who was stressing him out? Why did you lay your head next to your wife or your husband? My husband knows everything there is to know about me. And so, yeah, there's no question that she knows everything. This was a faithful couple. This is a woman who consulted a priest and prayed when she felt that somebody had put a hex on her husband. And I just think everyone is being a little unfair by trying to assign so much ill will towards someone who hasn't done anything to warrant that. It does not feel appropriate to me. I haven't seen any reason to do that. What lie has Erica told that I'm supposed to be focused on? The amount of pressure that is on her right now, she has not come out and said anything to me that makes her suspicious. I would have been the first person. If I felt that anything was there, I would have said something truly. But I know that Charlie was very happy with Erica. And I know that Erica was a reason. She was pushing Charlie, as women do, to really think through his ideas and think through what it was that he believed in one way or the other. She made him happy. And I just want you guys to know that. And so when you're putting stuff out there, just imagine that you're in her shoes. Imagine the size and the scale of that company. And imagine that on top of everything, you've got people that are digging into every layer of your life and not necessarily getting everything right. And I just really just feels to me like it's unfair.
And you're making hundreds and thousands of dollars every single episode going after the people that I love. No, stop. To stop.
Publish that, you crying over your husband's casket, and to publish his dead body on Instagram was a decision that was made by Erica. And we can watch that. Take a look. That was not our business. This is why there are many people who do not believe that women are equipped to lead companies, because what you are watching here is an unbelievably emotional response that is absent of any logic. If you really care about your team, answer the questions. I just do not accept any of that. Turning Point is acting suspicious, and she does not feel that it is what she wants to do as a matter of priority. She sat down with the New York Times. She made time, by the way, in case you don't remember, to fly to DC and basically say Charlie loved you. That was like the 15-second speech. We have a clip of that speech that she gave. So Erica Kirk has time. Not her priority. Not a good idea. Okay, it may work in PR world. You guys, I know how it's an obvious PR campaign. It's never been more obvious of a psychological operation. Whoa, Erica Kirk shuts down the No, she didn't even respond to one of the conspiracies. She gave us emotion. She said, I'm a mother, I am a wife, and we never asked about whether she was mother or wife. She's just expanding the wings of people that we're not allowed to critique because they're in the family. If you call them fam, you can't critique them, right? At AmFest 2023, I went alone at the PBD Live podcast. I stood there talking to a woman for the whole hour the show was going on. Talked to her about my heritage, Armenian, and she shared that she and her husband cared deeply about my people. At the end of the conversation, she let me know she is Charlie's wife, Erica. She made me feel welcome when I was alone. God be with the Kirks. If there was anything that could rile Charlie up, it's questioning his moral integrity. Yeah, they are very, very good people. Charlie and Erica are fantastic people. It does feel, I would say it feels elite. I don't have time for the little people. Okay, I don't have time for, you small pocket donors. I got time. If you ain't spending for a table, you ain't getting a response, okay? Because we busy. We very busy. She's going to fight. She's going to fight, and she is going to fight on the good side because every woman would know what her husband's going through. So I can't even imagine what it feels like experiencing this tragedy, having to come to terms with this tragedy. I wasn't sure what direction she was going to go. If she was like, I was like, look, she's got a whole business that she's got to figure out. There's a lot of people in her ear. Maybe they did this transition too quickly and she's just keeping her head no, what she's saying is Turning Point USA is untouchable. And it's a no from me. Erica Kirk, man, she really is just the moment. Charlie worked. We knew who Charlie was because he was authentic. Okay. He didn't just go, well, I only make time for big pocket donors. Realizing that nothing in Charlie's life was real. It's just something that keeps me up at night. Just nothing in his life was real. Everyone's just oh, let's just move on. It's so crazy to want to figure out what happened. Let's just start issuing gag orders. And the way to honor him is to give money. I don't know. There's just something really sick and demonic about the entire thing. It's looking to me like the apparent plan was to assassinate Charlie Kirk, who had at long last faltered on the pro-Israel cause, okay, his words, not mine, and then to stage a hostile takeover of his brand and of his legacy.
Turning Point USA, the conservative grassroots organization co-founded by Kirk, announcing his widow Erica will take over as the group's CEO.
There's two things happening here. There's a widow, and then there is the chairman and the CEO, and she has assumed that role, okay? So criticisms pertaining to anything at Turning Point USA that are being directed at Erica are fair. Yeah, I'm putting the fire here right at the feet of Turning Point because I am disgusted. I am genuinely disgusted. I am looking around and wondering whether Charlie's entire life was the Truman Show. None of you guys are behaving in the way that you should be behaving. But I'm starting to think that the assassination of Charlie Kirk was something akin to a regicide, right? The assassination of a king to install a new ruler who the king would have never approved of.
He left me a blueprint in all of his journals, but more so than that, I was his vault for literally everything. He shared everything with me, his vision, his dreams.
In the event of his untimely death, like, you know, he just, in the third notebook, he was like, oh, and if I accidentally get shot on campus, here's what you should do. Call Erica. And then after you call Erica, come find this notebook. And in this notebook, you'll see that I am using adjectives like fantastic and heroic to describe Mikey McCoy.
My husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
Why are you doing that? Why do I feel like you're trying to program me? And if during this process of our imagination, common sense comes on and we're like, oh, but wait, Charlie, wasn't he like a boy genius? He's a pretty bright kid. Wouldn't he have maybe formalized that succession plan outside of like a diary? Maybe call one of his many lawyers? Maybe formalize it in a will, because that's what you're supposed to do if you are thinking about dying and you need to make a plan. You make a will. I'm sure he had a will, but no, he wanted to put it in these notebooks. And then the plan was to guilt us, I think, to try to haunt us with the ghost of Charlie's notebooks that we're never going to be allowed to read, but we're supposed to accept that they most definitely read. Like, for sure. That's what it feels like. I am told that these people believe the official narrative. Lone shooter. No one else involved, just a crazy guy with too many pronouns in his bio.
To have seen the autopsy report, to have seen the different evidence portions that have been collected, I trust our team.
Hey, 1963 called and they want their narrative back. All that's missing from the story is a grassy knoll, right? Just need a grassy knoll. Anyways, back at headquarters, I am told it's business as usual. And it's kind of giving me like, I don't know, LBJ when he gets sworn in that famous picture. Unfortunately, sworn in. Unfortunately, of course, he's sad in this photo. Gosh, he's obviously not wanting to be the president of the United States. JFK was shot and killed. And now LBJ has to step up, unfortunately. But I gotta be honest, I wasn't there. I don't think LBJ was actually that upset. I don't know why. Vibes. The vibes just aren't vibing for me in that picture, but maybe he was. Maybe the truth is that LBJ simply, to use an expression, had his wits about him. It becomes clearer and clearer. It just screams at me that this was an inside job, okay? We just know. We just know that he was truly betrayed in one of the most egregious ways that I think I've ever seen. It has made me lose faith in politics. It has made me fully lose faith in Trump. And my heart aches for the fact that he gave so much of his life to Trump and to politics. And they just were like, nope, that is it. What's with them giving people a holiday after they kill them? Why is that a thing? You know what I mean? They're like, oh, Martin Luther King, what about this holiday? What about this boulevard? Anyways, let me knock it off. Like, they're going to give Charlie Kirk a boulevard. Nothing is making sense at all. It has not made sense from the very beginning, okay? And that's because the feds are involved. And my instinct has always been that the feds injected themselves immediately into this case because they were staging a cover-up. So what exactly are the feds building their case on? Vibes or sheer corruption? Because I'm thinking it might be the latter. Yeah, you got to be just insane to trust the authorities. As soon as somebody says, we're just trusting the authorities, suspect on the list. What do you mean we're trusting the feds? Like, since when are we doing that? And since when do we trust the feds? I don't really trust these feds, right? I'm like, no, we don't trust the feds. We don't trust the feds. We can only trust the feds. Tell us what happened. Yeah, right. We can't trust them at all because it feels to me, okay, that this is a conspiracy, a federal level conspiracy. So is this AI or is this a female fed that put these messages together? Gut instinct is that this was a military operation. Based off everything that I've seen and the lingering questions that I have and some other leads that we are working on, that's how I feel. You know, my general perspective is that we live in a nation that is governed by the military. So I don't necessarily believe that Trump is in control of things. And if you are under any illusions that America is a sovereign nation, you need to wake up. Memorial thing in Arizona, which is not a funeral. It's a memorial event. Okay, that is, by the way, in large part from what I understand, being controlled by the White House. Trump is controlled by Zionists. So they're like baiting me here. Why would I be invited by anyone in Trump's Zionist administration. And I think we all recognize that the person that has the most power over all of our nations at this moment is Bibi Netanyahu. Of course, he's the boss. He's the big boss, Bibi. And that's how this nation has accrued so much power across the world through a very systemic process of blackmail. Hence, Trump gaslighting us about Jeffrey Epstein, because everybody is implicated. Okay, these are blackmail rings, but for Trump, this is masked down. Okay, he is now rendered impotent leader. He is telling you he is not America first. I don't even know if he's America second at this point. I think that I accidentally ruined the Fed narrative. I think we accidentally ruined what they were going to try to do to frame this. There's no question. They killed you. There's no way. That's like their signature thing. It's like that's what they do. It's the Fed signature. It's how they sign off after they murder you. They're like Holiday in a boulevard. And it's never on a nice side of town either. Like Charlie Kirk Boulevard is not going to be a nice side of town. Anyways, is we're not getting the full story because I just spiritually know that more people are involved. Okay. So I would discern that we are looking, just vibe again, 2 different people would be my thing. 2 different people. I think the person in the maroon that's walking is different from the person that's walking up the stairs. It's a gut thing, okay? I don't know, but I know, okay? I don't know, but I know. We don't know, but we know something made its way around the entire town and into my tips line repeatedly. It is a very clear image of Tyler Robinson, allegedly taken, I'll say allegedly for safety here. We can now plot this change, this alleged Dairy Queen stop onto our timeline. We were very accurate when we started getting really serious about looking at a timeline. I like a clean timeline. Well, there we go. 6:38 p.m. We get this confirmed photo, or I shouldn't say a confirmed photo, an alleged photo. He writes, since Trump got into office, my dad has been pretty die-hard MAGA. There's something here for everyone if you want to take the low-hanging fruit and think of this as left versus right? So if you're like, on the right, you're like, I need to blame the left, then it's like, whoa, the trans thing is here. But if you're on the left, you need to blame the right. Well, dad was a diehard MAGA. It's so Fed. It's just so federally written. It's amazing. So chaos right here. Says to Lance, allegedly, quote, I worry about Prince. I had to leave it, referring to the rifle, in a bush where I changed outfits. Wait, changed outfits? Somebody commented, men don't say outfits. That's a woman thing. Okay, yeah, that's true. I would say I changed my outfit. A man does not say, you just say you changed clothes. You would not say an outfit. Outfit is very girly. Okay, so is this AI or is this a female Fed that put these messages together? We're not feeling like it's Tyler Robinson, that's for sure. I can get close to it, but there is a squad car parked right by it. Squad car. Okay, yeah, no. How many times do you call a police car a squad car? Do you want to know who calls it a squad car? Someone on the squad. Well, that's how that works. So I would like more information about Lance Twiggs. Okay, I already don't like that mom received a Bachelor of Science from Stanford University in psychology. It seems to be a running theme in these Fed ops that there's always psychology somewhere in the family. Entire world is watching, and that's what's problematic. Left and right, we are realizing something more sinister happened. We're not taking the MAGA bait. The dad MAGA, he's been more MAGA than ever. One of the commenters pointed out, why would the dad suddenly be more MAGA than ever? Like, what happened recently? Like, we're in September. Like, what happened that someone would commit themselves further to Trump, more MAGA than ever? In fact, it's been kind of the opposite. People think we're occupied by Zionists. More MAGA people are going like, it seems like Trump has kind of given up on free speech, and his administration seems to be controlled by Bibi Netanyahu, so that doesn't ring true either. And then it's like, oh, over here, the trans. Neither. Left and right, we're paying attention, and we're looking up at who rules over us, and it's not a pretty picture. Just show us the footage, okay? I'm demanding it. You know why? Because I need to be able to fit things into my timeline, if that's okay with you. Why you are attacking the people who are, the person rather, who is trying to investigate it. You're not a good friend, they say, if you investigate this. Now they're running the, how dare you get clicks for investigating it? What? This is my show. How dare you get clips for even talking about me talking about it? You morons.
Proverbs 31, Titus 2 woman. Catholic women's posture towards politics is give complete control to God, praying unceasingly. Catholic wives, mothers should be ministering to wives and mothers, not running online smear campaigns. Busybodies, 1 Timothy 5:13. Keepers of the home, Titus 2:3-5. Being a wife and mother does not forbid public speech or teaching in principle, but it does subordinate all public activity to the good of the husband, the care of the children, the peace and order of the household, and the virtue of modesty and discretion. The church does not say a woman must never speak publicly, but it does say a woman must never neglect her first vocation or act in ways that contradict feminine virtue. Instead of saying she shouldn't be online at all, I'm saying instead, when a married woman with children becomes consumed with public commentary, speculation, or online agitation, especially about matters outside her authority, the church warns that this can become the sin of being a busybody, even if she believes her intentions are good. This behavior is not aligned with the virtues Scripture prescribes for women in her state of life.
And then it switched to Erica Kirk and Turning Point. Turning Point became the focus of Candace Owens. And honestly, Tucker, from that point forward, I worked with Turning Point and Erica regularly to say, look, Candace has the right to ask the questions she wants to ask. I'm very close with everybody there, as I know you are too. And I talk with them at length often about what's the best way of handling this, right? And I did not think it was a great idea to go out and try to combat each claim. I really thought just let her do her thing. You don't get to police her, but you also don't have to respond to every question she asks. Like, that's just not, I wouldn't do it, and I don't suggest you do it. Sometimes they agreed with me, sometimes they didn't. But for the whole time, I was in close contact with them. And then ultimately, Erica was asking me if I would help forge a meeting with them, broker a peace of some sorts. I told her, maybe you could just email Candace and put it to bed. Maybe that's the best way instead of like getting together. I don't know, or doing she wanted to do a live stream initially. She didn't want to do it that way, whatever. I spoke with Candace too and was honest with her. And I've gotten to know her a lot better over the past 6 months. And actually, I know her better now than ever. And I've learned a lot about what's being done to Candace by some of the people we've been discussing. Yep. And it's disgusting. And I'm horrified by what she's been put through. So I'm really just not in the mood. I'm not her policeman. I don't want to be her policeman. You don't like her, don't click on her face. Same for me, same for you.
It's the best.
Something very disturbing is happening in America. I feel like AmFest or what it did for me was it contributed to my realization that the future, the dark future that everyone's always predicting, like the AI future, it's here. We're actually here. I think that we are fighting machines. I think that these people are not humans, that they're sentinels that maybe look like humans. That's how I feel. I feel like it's the single solitary event that contributed to my realization that the future is happening right now. Leading people into AI, I have always sensed this demonic because I'm telling you, I don't even think these people are human. Like I look at Elon Musk and Sam Altman and Peter Thiel, and I'm pretty sure they're hybrid. You know what I mean? Like they just look like an Apple software that I should be able to download at night, like my phone's getting an update or something. It's something in the eyes. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I know I'm human, but I don't know if I stabbed you if you bleed, I'm not going to stab them, but I don't know if they bleed all the way. I think a battery would fall out. You know what I mean? The gap that's between us and the rest of them is essentially they don't know how to behave like humans. You know what I mean? Like we're fighting an algorithm, a computer code that is presenting as a human being, but actually it can't comprehend real human emotion. And the programmers can't quite write the code specifically enough to emulate real human emotion. And so in response, they're just multiplying the sentinels. Like they're sending more of them to say and do things that are obviously abnormal, that are obviously inhumane. And they're hoping that with enough of them pretending like it's fine, they can override our humanity. I know I'm human, but I don't know if I stabbed you if you bleed, you know?
Hey guys, welcome to Relatable. Happy Monday. Hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Yes, God's eternal plan of redemption is still, as ever, going off without a hitch. Nothing surprises him. Nothing takes him aback. Nothing throws him off. He is never looking down and wondering what is going on. He is completely sovereign over it, and his victory is sure. I have been thinking over and over again about Psalm 37 for so many reasons. I've had to be reminded that the evildoer doesn't win, that the person who is a rejection of God and a rejection of everything that he calls good and right and true, even when it seems like that person is succeeding, that side is thriving. The truth is that Jesus wins in the end. And one day there will be no more unfairness. There will be no more injustice. The evildoer will not have the final word, but God does. And I've heard from so many of you that reality that I can't take credit for any of the truths or the phrases that I just shared, because it's all from the Word of God, has just encouraged you so much. And I just want you to know that it encourages me too. I don't just say it because you guys like the reminder. It's because it ministers to my heart just as it ministers to yours. And I have to remember who wins, or all of this gets really, really sad and depressing. That is where our joy has to come from, where our hope comes from, where our steadiness derives from, is that he is in complete control, and he is better and more merciful and more faithful and more victorious than we can even understand. So let's just start out our week with that God's eternal plan of redemption is always going off without a hitch. And our responsibility is only to do the next right thing in faith with excellence and for the glory of God. First, I want to look into the profile of someone like this and look more deeply into kind of what inspires someone to take on these social justice causes, to leave behind their children and to risk their family safety and to risk their own safety and their own life on behalf of illegal aliens who have been convicted of things like child rape and murder. So something mythical about that. But there is something going on with the white woman in America. The white woman in America who calls herself a Christian and has put herself on the front lines of these social justice battles. Why is she doing what she is doing? Who is activating her to do these things? What is motivating her? I think it's worth us as women, as Christian women in this audience, to try to get a better sense of that. So let's look at some statistics of that in just a. So are American women in a spiritual crisis? That's the bigger question that I want to get into today. Renee Good kind of reinforces a stereotype. Stereotype is actually the better word that I was looking for earlier instead of archetype. She's kind of the stereotype of this liberal white woman. Is this characterization of older white women as unstable social justice activists accurate? I would argue yes and no. I think it has to do with this idea of misplaced mothering. And this is not just for white women. This is just for women in general. The idea that instead of pouring your heart and your energy and your natural nurturing and protective nature into children, whether they're your own biological children or adopted children or children that you're caring for or serving or mentoring, you pour your mothering instincts, which are born in you and never really go away, into pets or plants or politics or your profession. And this kind of disordered channeling of the nurturing, beautifying, cultivating, mothering instinct creates a kind of inner discord and disorder that lends itself to bitterness and can lend itself to instability and lends itself to outsized passion when it comes to social justice projects and social justice causes, because the illegal alien becomes your child, or the gangbanger becomes your child, or this man who thinks that he's caught in the wrong body and just wants to go into the girls' locker room becomes your child. These causes become your children. The perceived victims in these causes become your children. And this is all triggered by what I call toxic empathy. If you have the perspective that I told you in the beginning, if you read the headlines that I showed you in the beginning, if you watch the videos that I showed you in the beginning, women who are already natural nurturers, natural mothers in some way or another, and naturally empathetic are going to be radicalized. They're going to be radicalized. And that is why some of the cruelest people that you talk to are the most empathetic social justice activists. In addition to reading Toxic Empathy, everyone should read the book Against Empathy. This is by a secular Yale psychologist named Paul Bloom, who talks about this phenomenon that the more highly empathetic someone is, the more indifferent they can be to other people's suffering. The more highly empathetic someone is, actually, the meaner they can be to those that they don't perceive as the victim. If you perceive this one person as the oppressed and all of your empathy, you're putting all of your feelings in how they feel, everyone that you see as oppressing that victim becomes your enemy and you become absolutely ruthless to them. I saw this one post by some progressive on X, and I'm just calling it out of memory so we don't have a picture of it. But she was saying, I just want people to be more empathetic and to have more common sense. And people went back in her history, and she had these awful posts about Charlie Kirk and these awful posts about Erica Kirk, just laughing at them. One of the posts was 2 months after Charlie died, said it's been 2 months since Charlie Kirk has said anything bigoted. This is someone who sees herself as highly empathetic, but because all of her empathy is channeled in one direction, and this is kind of the nature of empathy, because she feels like she is like a mother and protector of all of these supposedly marginalized groups, everyone that she sees as the oppressor becomes the enemy, and she is cruel towards them, and she will fight them tooth and nail. This is what happens to a lot of women. And I thought it was interesting, this biologist, Brett Weinstein, who we've had on our show. We had him on our show several years ago during COVID, I believe. He was on Joe Rogan talking about, he doesn't call it misplaced mothering. I think that's like, that should be the title. We've been talking about it on our show for a long time. But a couple months ago on the Joe Rogan episode, he said this, 7.
What people do is they take the energy, the seriousness of purpose that would ordinarily be directed into managing a marriage and the role of being a parent, and they put it into something. And Heather has pointed out that this is especially powerful with young women who seem to take on causes, and they defend them like a mother defending her child. That's a very powerful force.
Yes. Now, he would say that that has to do with evolution and, evolving in the wrong direction. And I, of course, would say it is disorder, and it is denying your God-given mothering instinct and perverting it and using it in the wrong direction. Again, I'm not saying that everyone has to be a biological mom. God may have called you not to be married, but I think that your mothering instincts, your nurturing instincts, whatever they are, still need to be channeled in some way towards children, whether it's mentorship or serving in your church or helping those who need help or teaching or educating, whatever it is. Those mothering instincts can't be primarily channeled towards your political cause or your profession or your pet or your plant, or else there is this inner dissatisfaction and discord that, again, I think manifests itself in resentment. Now, I do not only with this misplaced mothering that I see go on, especially in this group of women, but also just the content that targets this group of women, especially the liberal white woman, like Brene Brown, like Rachel Hollis, like Glennon Doyle, like all of these people that tell you to put yourself first and to love yourself and to cut out anything that doesn't serve you or fit your vision of what a beautiful, pleasurable life should be. This God of self always leads to misery, and it causes all kinds of disorder, causes all kinds of discord, and I would also say depression. Like the search for fulfillment is going in all of the wrong places. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression did a survey that surveyed undergraduate students age 18 to 22, showed a clear gender difference in political leanings. 55% of these females identified as liberal, 15% of conservative. Males were 40% liberal and 25% of conservative. Certainly, you're going to see that in colleges. There was another study in December 2025 that revealed that women were less likely than men to approve of Trump's job performance on immigration. They're more likely to believe than men that ICE officers should not be able to hide their identities. In 2018, an Axios report said that women are among those leading the charge in efforts to reunite immigrant children with their families in response to the zero tolerance immigration policy and family separation. And it is all because these women are led by their empathy and led by their instinct to mother. And I just want to read you a few passages from my book, Toxic Empathy, that just remind us of the other side of this issue and why empathy is not a good guide. Empathy blinds you to both reality and morality. Empathy makes you focus on only one person on the side of the moral equation. It makes you forget about the rights and the needs and the privacy and the fairness for the person on the other side of the moral equation. Okay, remember Romans 13, that the government was instituted by God to reward those who do good and to punish those who do evil. Those who think that it is immoral or it is unjust to deport people who are here illegally have no problem locking their own doors, having their own walls, deadbolting their own fences. And the truth is, nations are like families. The government is supposed to put the interest and the well-being and the safety of our people first. Just because you lock your door and you don't let any stranger come into your home doesn't mean that you hate your neighbors. It doesn't make you bigoted. It means that you love your children. If you allowed people that you don't know, that you haven't vetted, into your home to sleep in your kid's bed and to eat your kid's food, you wouldn't be a good neighbor. You would be a bad parent. Likewise, our government would be bad if they were not sending ICE into these cities to deport illegal aliens who are not only here illegally. That would be enough to deport someone, by the way. Every government has that right and responsibility to maintain that sovereignty that we just talked about, but also to deport the worst people in the world. We're talking about people who raped a child. And you want to impede that justice? That is the God-given and righteous responsibility of any government. And Christians should be for that because we serve a God of peace, not a God of disorder. We understand that disorder and chaos are curses for a nation and that God is a God of order who placed us in a garden, not a jungle. From the very beginning, we see that orderliness is a gift and a blessing for image bearers of God and for nations. That's why he created laws. That's why he created borders. That's why he created nations. That's why he created governments. And that's why the Tower of Babel and what befell those people when they were trying to be like God and build a tower up to God of chaos and not being able to understand each other and speaking in all different languages, that was a curse. What happened after the Tower of Babel, having all different people speaking all different languages and not being able to understand each other, was a curse. It was a curse then, and it's a curse now. It's disorder, it's chaos. Tough immigration policy is good. What's right? Again, what is the responsibility of the government as instituted by God? To punish the wrongdoer and to reward those who are doing good. As agents of order, we should be advocates of that. We should be advocates of partial justice. And like, these issues matter to me, not only as a Christian, but also as a mom, because I want my kids to grow up in America where we can say, yeah, you can go outside, you can roam the neighborhood. It used to be, well, just don't go to that part of town or don't go out at night. Now it's just stay inside because you never know what's lurking around the corner. I'm not saying we should live in paranoia. We actually just shouldn't, because our days are numbered by God. But you understand the growing concern. Lawlessness creates chaos and it creates a mistrust, and we can't live in that kind of society. So I hope and pray. I hope and pray that we have leaders who are willing to do what is right for the sake of the most vulnerable. All right, that's all we got time for today. We're going to have a
I'm not guessing motives. I'm observing fruits. Scripture invites this kind of discernment. By their fruits you will know them. Matthew 7:16. I'm not saying why they do what they do. I'm saying what their actions produce. I'm not attacking individuals. I'm contrasting responses to conflict. Now let's contrast it. Allie Beth Stuckey. Restraint, clarity, boundaries, prayer. Does not inflame, does not speculate, does not feast on scandal. Erica Kirk. Silence, dignity, refusal to engage. Nehemiah 6:3 posture. I am doing a great work and cannot come down. Verses. Candace Owens. Constant agitation, speculation, public tearing down. Draws attention away from peace and towards chaos. Megyn Kelly. Choosing alignment with agitation rather than restraint. Lending credibility to unrest instead of calming it. This is not about popularity or politics. It's about whether a woman builds or destabilizes. Proverbs 14:1. The wise woman builds her house, but the foolish tears it down with her own hands. I'm not saying Candace is evil. I'm saying this behavior tears down rather than builds. That is biblical evaluation, not personal condemnation. This is important because Erica is literally rebuilding her family's life in grief. Allie is guarding her speech and household, while others are profiting from noise around that home. That contrast should feel stark. It's concerning when women align themselves with agitation under the banner of sisterhood rather than truth. This alignment results in amplification of harm regardless of intention. The Catholic posture should be prayer, silence, surrender to God, refusal to feed speculation. Not commentary, not outrage, not tribal loyalty, but intercession. When you look at the contrast between these women, the difference is not politics, it's posture. One posture builds, guards, and prays. The other agitates, speculates, and tears down. Scripture tells us a wise woman builds her house while a foolish one tears it down with her own hands. As Catholic women, our calling is not to choose sides, but to choose prayer, restraint, and surrender to God, even when the noise is loud.
It is shocking to me how when I'm not even trying to look into Israel, they pop up in everything. I think this is the reason why we don't get to open the Epstein files, we don't get to open the JFK files. Parking aside America, other countries too. You investigate anything. I mean, I'm investigating Brigitte Macron, and Israeli blackmail comes up in Morocco. Everything that's being introduced by Zionists, right, and into our society, gambling, a major vice, drugs, prostitution, sex pornography. We Jews love pornography because we hate Catholics and we hate Jesus and it allows us to crush the church. They want to make you guys think that this culture is okay, because then they can subjugate your culture. It was convenient for Israel, by the way, when the towers went down. It was just convenient for Israel that JFK got shot. They shot JFK in an open car, so there's not, he's a sitting president. Obviously my security doesn't really matter. If they want me, they're gonna get me. That's not a normal thought process to have. We don't have that about any other country in the world, except for the one that, took over ours. And that's the truth, okay? We are an occupied nation. This is a state that has a hexagram on their flag. Okay, they're even lying about the history of the Star of David. It's a hexagram. It's a cult. Killing Christians. You've always been killing Christians, and you've always been pointing the finger at Muslims. So everyone's awake to that now. So you got a little bit more than a PR problem, Bill Ackman. It isn't a cult nation. There's no question about that. Everything that they are involved in is a cult. The leaders are coming together to find peace, right? Finally, everybody's coming to the table after 3 years of murdering young Ukrainian men. And I think we all recognize that the person that has the most power over all of our nations at this moment is Bibi Netanyahu. Of course, he's the boss. He's the big boss, Bibi. And he's going to decide when and if and exactly at what moment these wars are going to be allowed to end. Like, oh my gosh, like we have to make sure that a Holocaust never happens. We have to support Israel. Nope. Now we are reading the books. We're learning about how you've executed this. You've blindfolded the entire world to what you are. And what I think you might be is possessed by a real demon. I'm Catholic. I believe in demons. And Netanyahu is very clearly a demon. And any person that supports him, like you are a part of a like totally demonic enterprise.
I just want to be clear. Anything happens to me, blame the Zionists. Like 1000% blame the Zionists. Like
these characters are just being inserted into places to serve Israel. That makes Israel the master of the universe. And now, does all of this mean that Bibi Netanyahu and that this somehow proves that Israel was involved in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? No, we have no evidence of that. We can't say that because there is no evidence of that. But I don't like little lies. What happens in the Hamptons is not going to stay in the Hamptons, okay? Bring in our movie poster. I know what you did this summer.
Quick question about anti-Semitism online. Candace Owens, and I'm a big fan of you. I was a big fan of her, but she's obviously been going down this anti-Semitic bent.
He is ethnically, he is Jewish.
who happened to be Jewish. He was Jewish. The fact that they are Jewish.
He's a Galician Jew. A Galician Jew, something other than human.
I do want to take what you say and extrapolate that there is a corner of the internet of people that want to point and blame the Jews for all their problems.
Those people who are still, their sense, are still in positions of power. That is what makes this unique.
Everybody, this is demonic and it's from the pit of hell, and it should not be tolerated. Period.
There's too much that I've learned about their history, about what was done to Christians.
They say, oh, it's the Jews' fault.
Everything that's being introduced by Zionists are being used to control us.
Okay, let's kind of play this out. Well, tuberculosis, that used to kill about 1 billion people. It's a group of Jewish scientists that came up with the antibiotic that cured tuberculosis. How about CPR, the MRI machine?
And when you think about Vegas, the city that the empire of gambling was built upon, your mind kind of goes to Miriam and Sheldon Adelson. We Jews love pornography because we hate Catholics and we hate Jesus and allows us to crush the church.
There's over 500 million lives that were saved over the last 50 years because of people that were Jewish scientists that were working on things.
Drugs, prostitution, sex pornography.
They'll never say thank you to the Jews, but they'll always say shame on the Jews. Weird how that works.
They want to make you guys think that this culture is okay because then they can subjugate your culture.
If you are blaming 0.02% of the world's population for all of your problems,
they will ruin your effing life. We're coming for your job. We're coming for your finances. We're coming for that tour in Australia. You won't be able to move, Candace.
That is not going to be good for your soul. It's not good for your psychology. It's not good for your future in any way, shape, or form.
It is shocking to me how when I'm not even trying to look into Israel, they pop up in everything. What's happening here? Wake up, like what's happened in this country, because we all recognize that something's not right.
Well, it's the Jews' fault. That is sloppy and shallow thinking. And so I would just say this, that any young person that goes into this hyper online brain rot.
It was just convenient for Israel that JFK got shot. It was convenient for Israel, by the way, when the towers went down. It's all about controlling our minds. That makes Israel the master of the universe.
You are serving yourself over to your own demise. You are serving yourself into a suicide mission.
You've blindfolded the entire world to what you are. And what I think you might be is possessed by a real demon. There's no question about that. Everything that they are involved in is a cult.
And I'm not just going to go point at a small group of people and engaging in this brain rot.
like literally, because speaking about it, people are like, Candace, beef up your security. That's not fucking normal.
That will not make you happier and not make you healthier. We're a joyful and productive person, but productive.
No decent person can watch the video of young people being murdered at a music festival in southern Israel without feeling horrified. It's awful, and there's no excusing it. No matter what you think of Israel's policies in Gaza, you are not allowed to shoot people at music festivals. That's a crime. Israel has a right to respond to that crime and to defend itself.
I mean, what happened against Israel? You said it, I believe it. It is barbaric, it is medieval, it is wrong, and Israel as a nation absolutely has the right to self-defense, to its own national existence.
So you're not arguing on behalf of Hamas?
Of course. I mean, the things that people will say on the internet appall me, but Hamas is a terrorist group and deserves to be held accountable for the dastardly acts. I mean, this was barbaric. It was medieval.
The terrorist group Hamas, although the BBC will never call them terrorists, but the Hamas who launched those appalling, barbaric attacks on everything down to babies on October the 7th.
I'm an American. I was horrified by what happened on October 7th. Innocents died, and that's awful. And I hated watching it. And I feel so sorry for the Israelis who were killed.
Claiming that Hamas is a group of jihadis, they're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly. Which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization.
I have really started, as you know, speaking more and more about Islam.
If you want to talk about how Islam mistreats women, we could talk all day long. Because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith.
Most Muslim majority countries, you cannot criticize the Prophet Muhammad.
Muhammad, the greatest man ever to live, the greatest example, was a warlord who married a 6-year-old, raped her when she was 9, and then kept multiple wives.
Remember President Donald Trump openly ran on a Muslim ban into the United States of America?
Total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States until our country's representatives can figure out what the hell is going on.
Do you think Islam is compatible with Western civilization?
Absolutely not.
You get rid of Christianity, and then, even more dangerous, you go from secularism then to Islam. Because then you're like, well, we have to believe in something, and then you bring in a completely different ideology that's at odds with Western values.
I debated at Oxford and Cambridge back in May. These are broken, conquered cities and towns. They're completely unrecognizable. When I go walk through Piccadilly Square and there's just more Muslims than native-born whites, or there's something wrong about that, and that is a metamorphosis and you have to wonder, did you vote for this? Did you want this? Did you invite it?
I know a lot of great individual Muslims. My primary doctor in America is actually a Muslim, and he's amazing. That's not the point. You could walk the street and meet a great Muslim in London. The question is macro Islam compatible with Western values? Macro. Of course it's not.
As many as 1 million white English children may have been the victims of Muslim rape gangs.
Islam does not believe in freedom of speech.
11 slaughtered in the editorial meeting at the satirical weekly Charlie Hebdo. Supposed revenge for the paper's predictably provocative cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad.
Islam does not believe in freedom of religions. And finally, whereas we in the West are very careful to try to intermix religion and state, they are commanded to actually go into the state and try to change the state to be more Islamic around the core pillars of Islam.
Muslim armies move! Muslim armies move! We need to change the corrupt secular government.
Those three things are antithetical to the West.
In fact, this is the main reason why I decided to speak out, because after I left Islam, I had horrible deception and basically, oppression of my mind behind me. I wanted to get away from it, but I look into the world and I see people saying stuff like Islam is misunderstood. It's a religion of peace. It's not a religion of peace. It is not a religion that wants to coexist with you. We have today in the UK, in many other countries, we have Muslims preachers openly saying that the vision of Muslims should be to take over Western nations.
سنخصبهم وسوف ننزل وسوف ننجب منهم لأننا سوف نفتح بلادهم.
We've had imams in England saying they want to mount the West like a woman to be mounted and subdued. Gaddafi said something similar in the late 90s, saying that we're going to take over Europe without ever having to lift a sword. For anyone that has eyes to see and ears to hear and actually reads the Hadith and reads parts of the Quran, you know that conquest is an Islamic value.
I cannot see a single Western country that has become more Islamic and has become a better place to live that is happier or freer.
By what metric? Just happiness, quality?
Everything from quality of life, from cultural cohesion.
Is the Muslim world thrilled they're taking over the West?
Yes.
They tried for
many years to conquer Europe through wars, only wars.
50 مليون مسلم في أوروبا بعد عشرات السنين سيحول أوروبا إلى قارة مسلمة.
This is the soft Islamic conquest of the West.
The spiritual battle is coming to the West, and the enemies are wokeism or Marxism combining with Islamism to go after what we call the American way of life. But soon, Britain will have more practicing Muslims than practicing Christians. I think that will be a catastrophic change, and everyone knows it.
Work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there.
These characters are just being inserted into places to serve Israel. That makes Israel the master of the universe. And that's troubling.
Before we talk about this, but what are your views on Islam?
How's it going in the UK? Those are my views. Okay, you can't. They have different views than us. Their views are that Western civilization is corrupted and awful, and it doesn't follow their code of ethics.
Hamas, ISIS, all of these people are just so conveniently. These terror groups are so convenient in helping Israel expand its borders. We know that now. We're aware of these operations that you're running and constantly blaming it on Muslims, radical Muslim. It's always been killing Christians, and you've always been pointing the finger at Muslims.
But you didn't vote for Donald Trump, to be clear.
I did not.
After dropping out of college, Owens became CEO of Degree 180, a website which included, among other things, a blog focused on taking down then-candidate Donald Trump. One article was titled, "Does Donald Trump Actually Have a Small Penis?" The piece concluded that Donald Trump most likely has a penis the size of an infant.
Trump derangement syndrome. What is it? Do I have it? Is there a cure? Fact. Donald Trump won the presidency in the same way that Obama won it before him. The American people voted.
Trump, he is telling you he is not America first. I don't even know if he's America second at this point. It's all so ridiculous and disappointing. Just honestly embarrassing.
Sitting next to a Jewish guy who has lived way sooner than slavery was, just in the 1940s. They survived a near genocide, okay?
You say to people, okay, what is it about Hitler? Why is he the most evil? Well, the first thing people would say is, well, an ethnic cleansing almost took place. And now I offer back, you mean like we actually did to the Germans?
I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people.
World War II, convincing Americans. It's like totally cool to want to genocide Germans. Totally cool. The Germans are so evil. We can do this with movies. We're going to create this image and we're going to war. Because people in their minds think, oh, well, if it's in a book and a publisher agreed to publish it, HarperCollins published this book about Kamala, they must have fact-checked this and all of this must be true. People have this wrong perception. So Grok is saying there's no basis and he's crawled the biographies. Except he missed Robert Maxwell's authorized biography. And Robert Maxwell got to read and approve. That's what it means to have an approved biography. And Grok says, nothing to see here, right? This is being pushed on us that, like, the future is AI. The future is artificial intelligence. Why are they pushing artificial intelligence on people? It's because, well, maybe it's right there in the name. They want you to be intelligent artificially. It's a veneer. You're not actually intelligent. You might be an idiot, and not to be mindful of that, but to forcefully reject these tech lords. But then I use the software that Xavier Poussard introduced me to, the World Economic Forum's Face++ software. I don't know how this software works, but I've learned to trust it. I really trust that software, and it only further commits me to Xavier Poussard's research, which is that Brigitte Macron lived as Jean-Michel Trogneau. And that software has proven to me that she really has. The angst of that cannot feel good. Like, you think you're so right and you're dropping what you think are receipts about somebody's life. And the scariest part of that for me is really the IQ element, because it doesn't really matter how much research you do. Some things should just go to you, oh, you know what, that just sounds ridiculous. Jean-Michel Trogneau took Brigitte Trogneau's identity at some point. It's very obvious he kind of becomes his sister. That's what seems to be the most logical conclusion based off of everything.
America voted for a misogynist, said every actor and actress everywhere, just after they had got finished smooching up to Harvey Weinstein.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Celebrate the victory. Allah has shown the world that no normalization can erase the Palestinian cause. When you got the news that it happened, how many of you felt the euphoria? Allahu Akbar. How many of you felt it?
Can social media also, can it wrongly skew a narrative?
Now, Candace Owens, she said on the Piers Morgan show,
I was on the Zionist side. Let's not forget this for years. Social media completely transformed my perspective on what's happening in Israel and Palestine.
Who were the people posting on social media? It was you. Where did she hear the da'wah from? The da'wah was from you.
And I was astonished how quickly the narrative after October the 7th became anti-Israel and very pro-Palestinians stroke Hamas in many cases.
You want to amplify on the argument, so you do shit, go, Bismillah Hasanat, Bismillah Hasanat.
As a result of TikTok and social media and the like, people's hearts are genuinely flipping. Candace Owens.
What are your views on Islam?
How's it going in the UK? Those are my views. Their views are that Western civilization is corrupted.
Hi, American Muslim fan here. In the spirit of friendship between our faiths, here is an excerpt from the Quran. I think all of us are realizing the tremendous need for true faith right now.
The Quran told you Tucker's heart can be flipped.
My core belief is that the Islamist movement, this is an existential threat to the Western way of life. I really believe that.
You know what Islam means? Submission. I don't think I'm against that, actually.
Marjorie Green Taylor, one of the nastiest Islamophobes that you can come across in America.
Anyone that is a Muslim that believes in Sharia law does not belong in our government.
She's now one of the loudest advocates against Zionism.
Israel is a foreign government that has been meddling not only in campaigns and elections, but also meddling in government policy.
It has power. It shifted an entire U.S. foreign policy.
A war with Iran is a world war.
Trump is looking at Tucker Carlson, who's saying we shouldn't get involved.
I think we're going to see the end of American empire, obviously. Other nations would like to see that, and this is a perfect way to scuttle the USS America on the shoals of Iran.
Candace Owens, we shouldn't get involved.
I do believe that if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares?
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
We're entering a nuclear war, the World War III.
It stopped Trump from intervening in Iran itself because we decided to tweet about it, because we decided to show because we decided to do da'wah at last.
Spin it as necessary, as a necessary response to October 7th. That takes somebody that is something other than human.
So I look and I think, I can't believe Tucker Carlson said that. I can't believe Candace Owens said that.
It is not my business to affect a regime change in Iran. If we're going to get behind a regime change, it should be in Israel first.
America's supporting Israel because it's an ally.
I don't know what that means to be an ally. Qatar is like one of our closest allies in the world. They're a close ally of ours.
Raise your voice and watch how I flip the hearts. Raise your voice for Gaza. Watch how Candace Owens starts defending Gaza.
I have recognized that the ability to see this stuff every day has transformed my opinion.
Raise your voice. Watch how I make Tucker Carlson say we need to cut funding for the Zionists.
Floating the whole thing to the tune of many, many billions. It's not $3 billion a year. It's tens of billions a year.
Raise your voice. Watch how I make American society flip from pro-Zionist to pro-Palestine.
First time ever in which more Americans sympathize with the Palestinians over the Israelis. Truly a historic shift.
All of the blame. They always want to blame Israel. Zionism has brought us nothing but grief in America. We are aware of these operations that you're running and constantly blaming it on Muslims, radical Muslims.
Well, the Muslim population of the West is rising very quickly, and that has implications for social cohesion or national security.
I'm not Muslim. I'm not for Sharia law. On the other hand, compared to what? Compared to Baltimore? You know, shut up. Sharia law. They're claiming that Hamas is a, group of jihadis. Which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization.
That makes Israel the master of the universe. And that's troubling.
May Allah protect and preserve TikTok and elevate its status. Gulu Ameen.
I've heard a little bit about the Groypers. Do you know some of the names of the influencers who are taking advantage of the conservative youth movement? I want to read.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Yeah, so thank you. So first of all, I do know the names. I'm not going to repeat them because that only makes them and their little irrelevant circle bigger.
Nick Fuentes, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I wanted to meet you.
He's got a really compelling message, which is like 90% true.
We want 1,000 Dietrich Bonhoeffers. I like the Bonhoeffer example because of the circumstances, the tyranny.
Yes.
But I also like the Bonhoeffer because I never want to make anyone feel as if I'm being anything but honest. It's going to cost us something. God forbid our life like that, but eventually we're all going to have to go to heaven. And so Bonhoeffer is the example of, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice everything I have for God's purpose on earth.
Because once you start calling people Nazis, we really have no choice but to start shooting them. To be Dietrich Bonhoeffer and sort of reach the end of reason or even Christianity. Bonhoeffer decided Christianity's not even, he was a Lutheran pastor. Christianity's not enough. We have to kill the guy. I'm not judging Bonhoeffer, who was a great man in some ways, but...
Why do we give $3.8 billion to Israel, especially when they deliberately attacked the USS Liberty in the 1970s?
That is incorrect. Do not peddle conspiracy theories in our event. That is not acceptable. Do not say that.
Well, we put up with the attack on the USS Liberty that everyone's so afraid to talk about, clearly targeted on purpose by a country we're supporting, Israel.
You get rid of Christianity, and then, even more dangerous, you go from secularism then to Islam. Because then you're like, well, we have to believe in something, and then you bring in a completely different ideology that's at odds with Western values. So
he's like, you know what Islam means? Submission. And like, let it hang in the air like that was self-evidently disgusting. And I was like, I kind of think submission to God is like the whole point of life, but I didn't say anything. I was like, I don't think I'm against that, actually.
I cannot see a single Western country that has become more Islamic and has become a better place to live that is happier or freer.
By what metric? Just happiness, quality of life?
Everything from quality of life, from cultural cohesion.
Sharia law is bad, Seth. I don't know if you've heard that. It's bad. It's worse than what's happening in New York and Detroit. It's just bad.
A tragic truth of war is that civilians die. I don't like it, and you don't like it. And they brought it upon themselves. The only operation and entity to blame is the leadership of Hamas, not the Israeli government, for fighting this defensive war after they were invaded.
The essence of the Christian faith. And killing tens of thousands of children, and then making excuses for it on behalf of a foreign government is not in there.
Why is it that they haven't built a new school or hospital in the last 5 years? Hundreds of millions of dollars pour into Gaza. It's because Hamas runs Gaza right now, and they're a terrorist organization.
Hamas is a group of jihadis. They're Islamic extremists, which they also claim constantly. Which I don't know if that's true, by the way. It seems more like a political organization.
And it really goes down to the hatred of the Jews, and that's really where you need to meet people. Is at the basic. It's not anti-Zionism. I'm so sick and tired of hearing that. It is anti-Semitism, because if it was Zionism and the Arabs were all of a sudden, in control, then people, that's fine, whatever. The Zionism is the idea that Jewish people should have a home. But if you hate Jews altogether, then of course you're going to hate the idea that they have a home.
An attack on Western civilization looks like this. It's tribalism, it's identity politics, it's DEI, it's whatever. It's Zionism.
What is the justification for simply Christian Zionism?
We as evangelicals, we believe that there's prophecy in the Bible, and there was a prophecy that Israel will be scattered and then brought back together. And so we look at this Israel right now, modern day Israel, as a fulfillment of that prophecy.
And then the Christian Zionists who are, Christian Zionists. Like, what is that? Right. And I could just say for myself, I dislike them more than anybody. Because what? Because it's Christian heresy, and I'm offended by that as a Christian.
Now, friends, I don't know what else to say on this topic other than that it's getting tiring, like really tiring, that it's still happening. Like, I thought by now people would have woken up as soon as she actually came out and literally declared war on Protestant churches. She literally declared war on them. And I'll be doing another podcast explaining why that is wrong in itself, because it goes against all Catholic teaching. And I will do another podcast explaining the catechism and what the church teaches about that specifically. Do not worry. But if you haven't, can you please like and subscribe and comment and help me get to 1,000 subscribers before my birthday? And if you're wondering when my birthday is, it's March 10th. March 10th is my birthday, so please help me get there before March 10th. Thank you so much. I love you all. God bless. Later for now, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye 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 bye.
All lives matter. We're just the ones we choose. When a soul is taken, do we feel